Chapter 4, Section 7 is triangle congruency, and it's dealing with CPCTC. Alright, and what that stands for is corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Okay, so basically what I'm doing is I'm proving that the triangles are congruent and then proving that another angle is congruent to itself or another side is congruent to itself. So if I look here, okay, I'm told that segment BC is congruent to segment DE, and also angle BCE is congruent to angle DEC. Okay, so angle BCE is congruent to angle DEC. Okay, so I'm told those two things. All right. Now, if you notice, and it's always easier if I split this triangle up. Okay, I have a triangle here and a triangle here. All right, I'm going to split them apart. Okay, they don't have to look alike as long as it makes it easier, but as long as you label them correctly, then it's okay. So BCE is there, and then DEC. Okay, I know that this angle is congruent to this angle. All right, I also know that this segment is congruent to this segment. All right. So now, using all those new theorems that we have, side, 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 angle, 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 side, and hypotenuse, leg, all right, I look at it to see, all right, are these two triangles congruent? Okay. Now, I don't know all the side lengths. I do know that I can figure out that CE here is congruent to itself. They share this side here, so CE is congruent to itself. All right, so now I look at it, and if you notice, you have a side congruent to a side, you have an angle congruent to an angle, and you have a side congruent to a side. So therefore, these two triangles are congruent. So triangle CBE here is congruent to triangle C pairs up with E, so EDC. Those two triangles are congruent, and since I've proved they're congruent, I then can go on and label everything else. I can say that triangle BE, or excuse me, not triangle, but segment BE is congruent to segment DC, and the reason I can say that is the corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So since I proved they were congruent, I could say that BE is congruent to DC. Angle B here is congruent to angle D because corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Angle E is congruent to angle C here because of corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Okay, so let's look at another example. Okay, you're given this, AB is congruent to segment CD, and AB is parallel to CD. Okay, so they're congruent and they are parallel. All right. Now, other things that I notice, all right, first off, I want to draw new triangles here. So A, C, B, and then I'm going to draw this triangle here. C, B, D. Alright, I know that this one is congruent to this one. Alright, I know these lines are parallel. And if you look, CB is congruent to itself, so these two angles, or excuse me, these two sides are congruent because they're the same side. Alright, so now I can prove that they are congruent, the triangles are, if I found out what this side was and this side was. But I don't have any information about them, so I can't do that. So I need to use some angles. I need to figure out some angles here. All right. Well, since these two are parallel, if I can somehow make a transversal, then I can figure out, all right, I can see what angles are congruent here. All right, so parallel, parallel, okay. If I look here, this CB looks like a transversal, so I'm just going to extend it out here. Okay. Let's look at some angles. So this angle here, if you notice, all right, is an interior angle. It's between the two parallel lines. And if you notice here, this one is also in between, so it is a interior angle as well. And since they're both interior and they're alternating interior, therefore they both must be congruent. So angle B here is congruent to angle C here. Well, since they're congruent, look at this. I have side, angle, side. Side, angle, side. So these two triangles are congruent by side, angle, side. And since they are congruent, that means their corresponding parts are congruent. So that means that BD is congruent to AC. Angle A here is congruent to angle D here. And angle B is congruent to angle C on this triangle. So I can label all these because I proved they were congruent triangles. Congruent corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Okay, so that does it for 4.7. We'll do a few more problems in here, but that's basically what CPCTC stands for. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent.